Hello. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are all welcome to Dr. Yusufu Bala Usman Institute. We are here to celebrate the World Peace Day. Peace has been one very important issue that has deluded nations and even communities within Nigeria. So part of this year's World Peace Day celebration is tagged "The Time to Act Now." But our own perspective is we are looking at it from the point of view of, in a world at war, where is the peace? Where is the path to peace in Nigeria? Before I introduce members of the high table, we will take an introduction from the director of the institute, Norma Pechinal. Thank you, Norma. With us here is Ambassador Sani Bako, who is going to be the key presenter for today's symposium. Ambassador Sani Bako has been an ambassador of Nigeria to United States, Vietnam, and China. He is the chair of Nigeria-Vietnam Chamber of Commerce. His co-presenter is Dr. Nufaisa Garba Ahmed. She is from the Nigerian Defense Academy, Department of Defense and Strategic Studies. To her right or to her left is Professor Bello Al-Hassan from Department of Nigerian Languages and Cultures, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. To the right of Ambassador Sani is Mrs. Adama Adamu from Department of Mass Communication, ABU Zaria. To her right is Dr. Rabi Barau from Department of Curriculum and Instruction, Federal University of Education, Zaria. To her right is Ms. Habiba Siddiq from the Nigerian Institute of Legal Studies, Abuja. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the Yusufu Bala Usman Institute once again. The choice of audience for this occasion is targeted at women and children as the most vulnerable category of people who are mostly affected by crisis and conflict. Maybe some of you have not experienced what crisis and conflict is. You might have heard about it, but you have not experienced it at first hand. So this discussion is aimed at conscientizing you on what are the implications of conflict and war in our societies and communities, and what you need to do to nurture the fragile peace that exists within your community. The condition in which a neighbor finds himself is intricately linked to what his neighbor is experiencing. So when you have a peaceful community, it is bound to affect other neighboring communities. So the responsibility of managing peace is a collective one. Not to preempt the discussant, we will start today's symposium by handing over the microphone to Ambassador Sani. Ambassador Sani, you're welcome.
Thank you. It's okay. Thank you very much, Mr. MC. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me start by saying my profound appreciation to my elder sister, Noma Pachnok, and my younger brother, Atahiru Bala Usman, for giving me this opportunity to come and share experience with these distinguished personalities around. Madam Noma was my teacher. I was a student in Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences in 1979. And I was a sir until 1982, when I passed out from the university. After my NYSC, I went to join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I worked in the ministry for 35 years. I retired as an ambassador. I retired about 8 years ago. So I'm now looking for a job. So let me also recognize the co-presenter, Dr. Nufaisa, the discussants, Professor Bello Al-Hassan, Dr. Rabi Barau, Mrs. Habiba Sadiq, and Mrs. Adama Adamu. So thank you very much, and you're welcome. I want us to start this by saying a 1-minute silence in honor of our father, our teacher, Dr. Bala Usman, in whose memory this event is being organized today. So please, a 1 minute silence in his honor. Yeah, so may his gentle and amiable soul rest in Jannatul Firdaus. Okay. Our topic today is the world at war. Where is the first peace in Nigeria? It was only yesterday, actually, I got to know about the audience. So I'm going to read some of the things I've written, but then the input of this message, I'm sure, will come out from the discussions we are going to have, and especially the question and answer session. So briefly go through what I've written. I'm sure maybe some of you will find it very useful before the discussion. The world at war, where is the first peace in Nigeria? It is staged on this auspicious occasion of the World Peace Day, otherwise known as International Day of Peace. The day is celebrated annually on the 21st of each September. It is set aside by the United Nations, to encourage peace and global nonviolence, fostering stronger culture of peace in a world that is ceaselessly at war with itself. I'm sure you all agree with me that the world is at war. There is virtually no region of the world today that is free of wars or free of violence. If you look at it from Africa to Asia to Europe, except perhaps Europe. But Europe also had its own fair share of wars. If you remember the medieval times, then the First World War, the Second World War, which devastated not only their regions, but the entire world was devastated by these two world wars. So maybe that is why now they're experiencing a relative peace, and then other parts of the world are now experiencing devastating wars. But before we discuss on war and peace, let me just briefly say a short tribute, to our former teacher, Dr. Bala Usman. So much has been said about Bala, so we cannot even say a tribute about him in just how do I put it, a couple of minutes. If you start saying a tribute, I'm sure so many people saying that tribute can write books, on Dr. Bala Usman. So, but let me just say briefly that I was privileged to be a student in Ahmadu Bello University when Dr. Bala Usman was a lecturer, when he held sway in the university. I was there, I met him, and we knew him. We knew who he was. So we all know him. We respected him so much. We believe in him as a distinguished scholar and academician. He was a mentor, a teacher, and a researcher. He was a source of inspiration who touched countless lives and inspired generations. He was a great legend whose critical thinking and progressive ideas will continue to inspire us and generations to come, including your own generation. Bala's tremendous legacies, including scholarship and intellectualism, are a testament to his remarkable life and work and commitment to promoting global peace. Bala worked all his life to promote peace, not only peace in Nigeria, in Katsina or Zamfara, but global peace. Bala worked all his life to ensure that there is peace in the world. And he's also committed to social justice and knowledge development. So I'm sure one of the reasons, for this gathering here today, of young people like you, is to see that someday we have so many Bala Usmans in you. And I think the time to start is now. And then later, as we continue, you see some of the things you may wish to do in order to achieve, some of the things that were achieved by this remarkable personality in the person of Dr. Bala Usman. Now, we want to know what is war and what is peace, because these are two operatives words, in the topic given to us by the Institute. I researched so many books and writers, but I now came to adopt this definition that I'm going to read to you. And I got it from Meta AI because it almost, it is wider and then accepted or embraced all the other definitions that I saw in one way or the other. It says, war refers to a state of armed conflict between different nations, states, or societies. It is characterized by extreme violence, aggression, and destruction, often resulting in significant loss of lives. Significant loss of lives, displacement of people, and damage to infrastructure, as well as a long-term physical and psychological trauma. A long-term physical and psychological trauma always follow victims of war, for ages, for years to come after the war. War can take many forms, including conventional and asymmetric warfare. Whatever forms it takes, however, the consequences can be very, very severe. Peace, on the other hand, refers to a state of tranquility, harmony, and mutual understanding between individuals, groups, or nations. According to the same Meta, peace can be achieved through diplomacy and negotiations, conflict resolution and mediation, education and awareness, economic development and cooperation, cultural exchange and understanding. It is therefore clear to us all here that today we live in a world marked by conflicts, violence, and divisions. From time immemorial to date, there is virtually no region of the world that has not been affected by one type of war or the other. There is no region, just like I said earlier, there is no region of the world that has not been affected by war. These wars are often complex and multifaceted, including involving countries and regions. Some wars, such as World War I and II, are global in nature and affect almost all countries of the world. Other wars are regional, involving various countries in a particular region. These conflicts can arise from various factors such as territorial dispute, resource competition, ideological differences, economic disparities, and social tensions. These are reasons why we always experience war in the world. then you have different types of wars or conflicts. We have interstate conflict, war between two or more sovereign states, like what is happening now in Russia and Ukraine. It's an interstate conflict. Then we have civil war. Civil war is a conflict, within a country, usually between government and maybe some rebels, like we have had in Nigeria, sometimes in the 60s. I don't know where some of us were in the 60s, but Nigeria experienced a devastating war, during which more than 2 million lives were lost. More than 2 million lives of Nigerians were lost. And the war was between the federal government of Nigeria and then the Biafran government. We all know, the Biafran wanted to leave the country. They wanted to form their own country, and the federal government of Nigeria said no. And then, that caused the fight. That is a civil war within the country between, the same group of people. They also have transnational terrorism. Terror acts that exceed borders, typically orchestrated by groups with a global agenda or objectives, as in the Sahel region. Here we can, what easily comes to mind is like the Boko Haram. We all know what Boko Haram is. It's a group of people, insurgents, that want to take over the country by force using some religious reasons, to form a government. And there is no country in the world that would allow anybody, any group, to just come and constitute themselves into a government. So we now are fighting this war, the Boko Haram. And of course, side by side with the Boko Haram, we know that today we also have a very serious problem of banditry and kidnappings in parts of northwest Nigeria, where almost on a daily basis, people are being killed. Some of them are being kidnapped for ransom. In fact, in the northwest today, I think the easiest way to make money is to kidnap somebody. The easiest way is, because they can kidnap somebody and collect 15 million. There is nobody who can just make 50 million in a day or two. But the bandits are, and that is what is making it very, very lucrative business. And then the culprits are finding it very difficult to stop because they are making huge sums of money. There are ongoing conflicts, that have been there, and they keep going, unending, such as the conflict now between Russia and Ukraine, resulting in significant human sufferance and losses. Then Arab-Israeli conflict, we all know that there is this Arab-Israeli conflict where the Israelis are continuously, bombing, in fact, have taken over the state of Palestine. We all know that before 1948, there was no Israeli in the world map, but we had Palestine. There was no Israeli. The Israelis were scattered in different countries, in Europe, in America, and even Africa. I think in Ethiopia, there were some Palestinians who were said to be Jews. So in 1948, they decided that they should have their home. They should have a Jewish home. Initially, they sort of creating this home in Africa, in Uganda. But somewhere along the lines, that was not possible. And then they sort of their biblical homeland, which is the present day Israel, that was Palestine, before they took it over. So before 1948, there was no Palestine. There was no Israel. We only had Palestine on the world map. But today, we don't have Palestine, but we have Israel. They have chased away, sent away the Palestinians and taken over their land. And the Palestinians are giving it back. You know, they are fighting back to take their land. In Gaza, you always hear something in the news about Israeli bombing Gaza, you know, and the number of people being killed, women, children. And that is why the MC was talking about women and children being victims of war. And that is probably even on the high table here, you see there are more women than men. And then in the audience also, there are more women. Because women really are mostly victims of war, women and children. Because a woman is always not one person alone. You know, if there is war, a woman will take care, will ensure, even if she's going to lose her life, she will ensure that, you know, the children are safe. Even if she's going to be killed in the process. But the first and foremost thing is to ensure that her children are safe. So that is why, you know, they always happen to be victims of these devastating conflicts and all that. And that is why in the wisdom of this institute, they feel that, you know, some of you should come here and listen to things about war. We also have another conflict in Ethiopia. We have in Myanmar. We have in Yemen. We have in the South China Sea. You know, this is a territorial dispute between China, Vietnam, Philippines, and I think Japan. You know, they are fighting to take hold of the South China Sea. South China Sea is a very rich place. You know, it's a sea, it's very rich. And all these countries, they want to take over that place because it is rich. And then in the process, you see, this globalization today makes it possible that, you know, something remote can happen today in Zaria, but it can have profound implication, you know, on some people in China, in Russia, or in America, you know, because of globalization. You know, globalization has made the world a small place, you know. If you send a text message today, like this, since somebody can see it, you know, in the US at the same time as we are seeing it. So that is one of the effects of globalization. You know, something you do today, this very minute, you know, you see somebody in South Africa will call you to say, oh, I've just seen you, you know, talking to the children on this occasion. So that is why most of the wars we are talking about, you know, in one way or the other will affect, even if they are not taking place in this country, they will in one way or the other affect the country. We also know of the Kashmir conflict. We also know that of North Korea. You know, North Korea has nuclear weapons. And we all know what nuclear weapons are. You know, they are deadly weapons that can destroy the entire world in a second. You know, if they decide to deploy them, you know, they have the capacity to destroy the entire world in a minute. You know, they have these intercontinental ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic range missiles also, that, you know, from North Korea, although America is miles away, you know, they can hit at the target they want, you know, in a very short period of time. Before America can even realize that, yes, you know, North Korea is attacking them, they have already hit the target they want, and they are devastating. They can destroy the world in a very, very short period of time. That is the fear now that if care is not taken, the way some of our policy makers are going about policies in the world, you know, they can invite the third world war. And in the event of a third world war, there is virtually nobody that will live there will be nobody that will live, you know, to see the aftermath of the war. Because of all these nuclear weapons, you know, that have been amassed by so many countries, including America, Russia, North Korea, probably Iran, you know, and so many other countries. They all have these weapons. And imagine all of them deploying it, you know. Then, of course, in a matter of a couple of minutes, the world will be non-existent. There will be nobody. It will wipe up the entire Earth. The entire world will be wiped up. So, but in addition to these wars that are mostly global, you know, that have affected one country or the other, we also have insurgency in Nigeria, like the Boko Haram. We have discussed briefly about Boko Haram. Boko Haram it started sometimes in 2002 when an Islamic preacher by name Muhammad Yusuf, created a group that they call Jamaatul Ahlul Sunnah Lid-Da'awati wal Jihad. Jamaatul Ahlul Sunnah Lid-Da'awati wal Jihad. That is people people of the Sunnah and Jihad, that they want to remove anything other than the Sunnah, by way of Jihad. And they regard almost everybody in the areas they operate as a non-believer, and they feel that it is their duty, to fight these non-believers and establish an Islamic state in Nigeria. And this thing started when this group was a ragtag organization. Ragtag in the sense that even the leader of the group, Mohammed Yusuf, was selling cassettes. He does some kind of preaching, and will sell cassettes. That time, cassettes. He will sell the cassettes in order for him to eat, to buy food to eat. But later he created this group that has now come and is giving Nigeria a very, very serious threat, sleepless nights. At the time, they have taken over some local governments in Borno, and they have devastated the entire southeast. Like that. And then in addition to that, we now come to also have banditry and kidnapping for ransom in northwest part of Nigeria, especially in Katsina and Zamfara. A number of people have been kidnapped, men, women, children, old people, and the bandits, the kidnappers, are making a lot of money, demanding huge sums of money from the relatives of the victims. And that is why I said earlier that it's now a very, very lucrative business, that unless if care is not taken, it will be very, very difficult, to stop it overnight, because more and more people are taking arms, to kidnap and make money. And I will look at that later. And some of these insurgents groups we have in Nigeria, like the Islamic State West Africa Province, they call it ISWAP, ISWAP, Islamic State West Africa Province. This group is known for using drone attacks. Look at drones. So they are now, from ragtag, they are so sophisticated now, they can have drones. They can attack, using drones. They have a very strong presence in the Lake Chad Basin region, that is around the Lake Chad. They have been responsible for several attacks, including the December 2024 drone attack on Nigeria's forward operating base in Wajirko. Wajirko, I think, is in Borno State. So we have the ISWAP, then we have the Boko Haram, which I said is officially Jamaatul Ahlul Sunnah Lid-Da'awati wal Jihad, a group of people of Sunnah for Da'awah and Jihad. Although not as prominent as ISWAP, Boko Haram still poses a threat in the northeast part of Nigeria. At one time, it was reported that the group has taken over a certain number of local governments in Borno State. These are non-state actors, but they are taking over local governments, from the state. Local governments are under the state governments are under the federal government. But these former ragtag elements, have even overpowered the security agents in these local governments and have taken over the local government. And we're levying taxes. They will levy taxes for you before you go to fish. You have to pay, and all that. So which means they are like creating a state within a state. We also have Ansaru. Ansaru, otherwise known as Ansarul Muslimina fi Bilad di Sudan, that is Vanguard for the Protection of Muslims in Black Africa. It is an arm of Al Qaeda. You know Al Qaeda. Okay. It aspires to expel secular, domestic, and foreign influences. Secular and foreign okay. In northeast Nigeria were moved to parts of
Yeah, okay now.
we also have the Lakrawa. This 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 northwest Nigeria, especially swift prosecution. Till today, nobody has been prosecuted, to our knowledge. Nobody has been prosecuted for kidnapping, for killing, for maiming, for raping, for doing all sorts of things. Instead, we can see some state governments are doing what is called sulhu. They are negotiating with the criminals. These are people who have killed, have maimed, have made money, and then we are trying to negotiate with them to stop. I don't think, that is a solution. We should discourage payment of ransom. We should create a lot of jobs for our young men and women. Some of them, they say an idle mind is a devil workshop. Some of them have no job and they cannot commit suicide, so they go and join these groups. Intelligence gathering, tightening border security. Our borders are for us in Nigeria, anybody can go to Niger, Mali, and come in anyhow with weapons, with anything, Community engagement, state policing, education and awareness. We need to educate our children. We need to educate, people generally, give them quality education so that they'll be able to also prevent this menace. Conclusion, the world is indeed besieged by one crisis or the other. There is no one region that is crisis-free with colossal loss of lives. People, especially policymakers, are scared now more than ever before of the possibility of a third world war. Therefore, as we navigate the complexities of a world at war, it is clear that the path of peace requires a multifaceted approach. We must address the root cause of the conflicts, promote dialogue and understanding. As students, you have a crucial role to play in shaping the future of our world. It is you now, the responsibility will soon come to you, to shape, the world we are going to live, and I would therefore like to call on you, one, to stay informed about global issues and conflict. You should always go and read, find out what is happening in the world, especially these global conflicts. Engage in respectful dialogue and healthy debate with your colleagues and even elders in class, with your teachers, and outside with elders and others. Engage in healthy debates so that you'll be able to educate yourselves, for the future role that society is going to have for you. Support organizations working towards global peace. Advocate for policies and practices that promote peace and justice. So let us commit to promoting peace and understanding in our daily lives. Let us work together to create more just and equitable world. Let us strive to be the leaders and change agents our world needs. By working together, we can create a more peaceful and harmonious world. We need to see more and more Bala Usman coming from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Dr. Lufaisa, we would just give you some 10 minutes.
Oh. Wow.
15.
No, this is not peace. This is not justice. Okay, no problem.
Okay, let's see how we can do it in 15 minutes.
Hey, okay, fair enough. Can you hear me? Am I audible enough? Okay. Our distinguished invited guests, my co-presenter this afternoon, another esteemed panelist for today, our amiable students here present, good afternoon. It's an honor to be among your midst today, and I'm so delighted. This is the first time I'm coming to this noble institute, and I must confess that I'm really delighted and happy that programs like this are hosted where we can sit and talk about problems that concerns us every single day, right? So thank you so much to the Yusufu Bala Institute for, first of all, inviting me and for hosting this program. And I hope that we learn from each other and we were able to go back to our roots and enforce some of the things that we're going to discuss here this afternoon. So thank you very much. Before I begin my presentation, I'd like to ask the students here, the ones immediate after me. Ambassador has succinctly explained, he started by explaining what peace and what conflict means, right? Do you remember or you don't? Okay, I just want just two people, briefly to tell me what do you understand by peace and what do you understand by conflict? The secondary school students, what do you understand by this peace? We will have to understand whether you even know what we are talking about or not, right? Yes, so what is peace? Don't worry, forget about the scholarly definitions that Ambassador has given you. Just what does it mean to you? Peace. Let's be fast. I'm going to deduct that from my 15 minutes. So yes. Peace. Nobody? Yes, thank you. Okay. Please, a round of applause for him. Yes, another person, this time a female. Yes. Ah. Please. Am I not a girl too? And I'm talking. Good. Yes. Mm. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I like those definitions because the key points there are one is that harmony, right? You associate peace with harmony, and then you associate conflict or war with maybe disagreement or clashes, right? Between either individuals, groups, societies, countries. He spoke about interstate and intrastate conflicts, right? So conflicts can come in different forms. It can start, first of all, between you and the other person, and then it can move ahead to the next stage, you know, between states, like between Nigeria and Cameroon, for example, right? Yes. So that is not what I'm going to discuss now. I'd like to start by saying that we are observing this day, International Day for Peace, because the world wants to recognize what? The position of peace in our society, right? The world is coming to a pause to understand and recognize the role peace needs to play, not just in Nigeria, globally as a whole, right? Ambassador mentioned that the world is at the crossroads, right? From Africa to the Middle East to Europe, everywhere is burning. There's conflict everywhere, right? And then we're still clamoring for this peace, 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 peace. So I'd like to borrow the definition of the last person that said peace is the absence of conflict or something. I'd like to extend a little bit of that definition to state that peace is not just the absence of war. We can have war, but we can still advocate and pursue peace at the same time. So peace is an extension of justice, security, and shared dignity, right? Even in the presence of war. Well, it's not something within our control totally to abstain war, right? But at least we can push for peace, right? And when you push for that peace, you're pushing for what? Your security and safety. You're pushing for justice, you're pushing for equality, and you're pushing for dignity, right? So just have these things at the back of your mind. This is what peace is all about, even in the presence of war, right? Are you there? All right, so I'm expected to speak on the local dimension of conflict in Nigeria, right? What is happening here within our own immediate community and what is the pathway to peace, right? Now, across the 6 geopolitical zones, from the northeast to the northwest. We have different conflicts happening, right? He spoke about the Boko Haram insurgency. Do you know that one? The BH happening in Borno, Adamawa, Maiduguri. Do you know Boko Haram? Are you sure? All right. Have you heard of bandits too? Yes, we have banditry across the northwest and also across even the south. We've been hearing a lot of things happening, abductions, kidnapping, you know, traveling from here to Zamfara is so scary that when you tell someone that you want to travel, the person pauses and asks you, are you sure? Do you understand? That is the absence of peace. Now, I'd like to share a statistics with you. The statistics is from a very solid conflict data organization that says globally there are at least 50 active conflicts present by the end of 2024. 50 active conflicts. That means 50 solid conflicts are burning globally. And among that conflicts, at least 123 million people have been displaced. 123 million people have left their homes, displaced. Not 1,000, no, not 100, not just 100, no. 123 million people have, that's like half of Nigeria. You know Nigeria is the most populous country, right? They've left their home, homeless, without peace, searching for peace. Now, this is not just random statistics. This is worrisome. Is it not worrisome? It's something that makes you think and reflect, right? Now, do you understand why we are clamoring for this peace, right? 123 million people are out on the street, left their homes, homeless. Among those statistics, 70% are women and children, like you and I. No homes, no shelter, no education, everything is at a standstill. Their sources of livelihoods have been shattered and displaced. Do they have peace? Definitely not. Now, looking at Nigeria here, there are so many drivers to conflict in Nigeria. There are so many things that are not making us sleep in Nigeria, right? And I would just like to share a few. First of all, when I say drivers to conflict, what are those things that are making conflict to happen, to brew, right? The most basic thing is when you ask someone, why are you perpetrating crime? He'll tell you that probably poverty, right? I don't have food, I have to steal, you know, nobody's trying to help me, I don't have shelter, I'm homeless. Poverty and unemployment among youths fuel conflicts. And you know what is the irony of it all? Or you know what is so worrisome about this is that these people are what? At the detriment of extremist recruitment. Do you know that? Those people that are hungry, those people that cannot afford a dignified life can fall into anything that they are given, they are asked to come and take up, right? That's why it's very easy to recruit women, it's very easy to recruit children, it's very easy to recruit those displaced people that I spoke about, right? So poverty and unemployment is one of the major causes of conflict and by extension, extremist recruitment in Nigeria. And then you have another one, inequality, lack of justice, right? Lack of equality, you know, marginalization. When there is no equality between the haves and the haves, not between the boy and the girl, you know, when your rights are trampled upon, when you don't have a voice, when you're not heard as women here, when you cannot say and to be heard, inequality breeds. Of course, you feel resentment, right? Of course, you feel like you want to. You can even take up arms, right? Right or wrong? Yes, even within your classrooms. When your teacher favors one person to the other, of course you feel that, I feel like I can kill this. Do you understand? Okay, well, not kill, but I feel like I can strangle this girl. So inequality is one form that leads to conflict. And again, you also have other ones like the proliferation of arms. You know arms, right? Guns. He spoke about bombs. Now, these small arms and light weapons is a very, very serious driver of conflict globally. There's an estimate that says that over 1 billion arms are in circulation globally. 1 billion. Oh. I'm not lying. You can, if you can check these statistics, 1 billion arms are in, small arms are in circulation. And more than half of those arms are in circulation were in Africa, West Africa. Yes. That's why it's so easy when you look at the news, when you look at, you see all these Boko Haram bandits having AK-47, you know, having arms at their disposal, causing havoc, right? So when I have arms in me, of course, when I come to this class, I'm sure going to ask you, keep quiet. Anybody that doesn't keep quiet, I have that, it's at my own detriment to shoot, right? And I'm going to cause chaos and conflict in this class. So proliferation is another cause of and driver of conflict in Nigeria. You have others like weak governance at the grassroots level. When you go to communities, especially across the north, northeast, northwest, even across the south, when you engage with these communities, they tell you that we don't feel government presence, right? Government don't come, they don't build schools, they don't even care about us. We only see them during elections, right? And when nobody cares about you, you feel resentment, and you can act in any way not good, right? Yes. So weak governance, lack of governance presence at grassroots level is a conflict trigger in Nigeria. Even within your schools, when you don't see your principal at all, nobody address, or you don't even, you know, you feel like, am I even in a school? Nobody addresses us. Nobody shows that they care. So it's a driver to conflict, right? Are you getting me? Now, what has also made this difficult is the spread of technology, right? Technology. We all have mobile phones, right? And technology is something that within the confines of your house, you can cause chaos, you can cause hate speech, you can trigger violence by just simply making a social media post. You know that or you don't know. I can just sit down here and type that. I can type on Facebook that, okay, somebody is harassing me in Yusufu Bala Usman Institute, they are pointing guns at me, come and help me. And within 10 minutes, not less than 10 minutes, you'd see someone. True or false? Is a misinformation. I'm lying. And then before you know it, the media will craft a narrative. They will frame a narrative that, oh no, probably a woman so has been harassed. Do you understand? A woman, that is how technology is contributing to conflict in our everyday society. So we have to be very, very wary of technology, the social media, and the news we ingest and digest as humans. Do you understand? Now, in all these things, when the drums of war beats, who are the most vulnerable? Who stand at risk? Who are those that are at the margin? Women and children. I'm not saying the men, with due apology, I'm not saying the men are not at risk or they are not facing any forms of violence or not, but women and children are at the risk. Because of what? Because they are so fragile, right? True or false? Because they are meant to be protected, because they are meant to be looked upon, because they are meant to be safeguarded, right? Even in terms of strength, a man has more strength than me. True or false? Well, you wouldn't know actually until, yes, it's like you don't agree. Okay, I'm speaking for myself actually. Yes, okay, what a man can, well, physical strength. I'm talking about physical strength now. Can you beat a man? Yes. Okay, let's try out of the institute later on. All right, so vulnerability, there's also a statistics that says that 3.4 million people in Nigeria have also been displaced due to Boko Haram insurgency. And more than half of those are children under 18. Children under 18 have left their homes. Some are not even under the confines of their parents. That means they no longer have access to school, education. Everything is at a halt for them, right? And for the women, some have lost their husbands, some have lost their sources of livelihoods. Some don't even know what it feels like to be safe anymore. And these are our mothers, our custodian of peace, our custodian of comfort, our everything and more, right? So do you understand how women are experiencing challenges? Now, displacement is not just about losing a home. It is losing everything that concerns you, right? Now, when these children are displaced, you know what happens? Some of them can fall for extremist recruitment. They become child soldiers, being armed with guns under 18, right? And when they have arms, what happens? They can cause chaos and havoc everywhere, right? And again, there is a psychological impact to that, the trauma involved, right? When there is no peace. Do you agree with me or not? When you have no peace, of course there's a psychological impact attached to it, you know? Anxiety, fear, constant depression, you know, you're always scared. Now, in all these things, what is the solution? Let me quickly go to the pathway to peace. What is the solution? Now, first of all, we must understand that we must define what peace means to us as a country, as a community. We must understand and refine what security means for us. Security is not just about protecting territory. It's not just about protecting the borders. There's an extension of security that is called human security, right? We must uphold human security at all times. Security of the people, economic security, personal security, food security, health security. Do you understand? We must also make sure that we empower the capital, human capital development at all times. You must make sure that you hone your skills, your knowledge, your capacities at all times. So that what? You don't fall into extremist recruitment, right? You don't fall into things that are not good in the society, like crime, perpetuating crime, because those things are what contribute to conflict. You must always make sure that you build your capacities as human beings, right? You don't wait for the government, of course. You keep learning, you keep building yourselves, and then you create the opportunities around you. Do you understand? Yes, you create the opportunities around you. Again, another pathway to peace is that we must leverage on our shared culture, our traditions, and our morals. We must go back to our roots, right? We must question ourselves. This thing I'm doing, am I contributing to a wrong in the society or not? You must go back and question yourself, right? And again, you must adopt the culture of not silencing. You must adopt the culture of speaking out, voicing out. When you see someone around you whose rights have been tumbled upon, you speak out on that person's behalf. That is how you create a difference in your community. You go back to your roots, you look out. You don't remain in silence over injustice, over inequality. You speak out. That is how you build what? A culture of peace. And then you must practice the discipline of peace always. Practice the discipline of peace always. Don't be a violent person. Not every time, wallahi tallahi. Do you understand? You must ensure that you practice that. Even if you feel angered, you must refrain and what? Know that you must observe peace at all times. Because what? If it doesn't happen to you, if violence doesn't happen to you, it can happen to someone close to you, right? And then automatically it happens to you. So with that, I would like to pause here. We will still take questions and we'll still interact. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Faisa, for immersing our audience into
Yes, I'm presently teaching in a school now. Yes.
Next, we are going to take Dr. Bello Al-Hassan so that we will hear the psychological or psychosocial impact of crisis and war on the development of a people. I believe that he will be able to do that even without preparing for that.
Thank you very much. I don't want to stand on ceremony. I observe all protocols. Yeah, I first render my gratitude to the Institute for the confidence they have reposed in me. First, with our first encounter, when they brought a document in the German language and asked me to translate it into the English language. Something, obviously speaking, I enjoyed doing because I know the purposes, the deliberateness of this institute. And with a lot of chest beating, I accomplished that work. And I believe the favor was being done to me. I didn't do anybody any favors. Then, secondly, this, to invite me as a Hausa teacher to contribute to peace discourse. That, for me, is the apex of recognition. I do appreciate the presentations that have been made here, first by the ambassador and then by our talented Dr. Nufesa, whose didactic approach to today's occasion I would like to borrow. Didactic means teaching, to teach. The ambassador made his presentation in a very, very vibrant way. He simplified facts for the understanding of everybody, in spite of the fact that he complained he was ambushed by the fact he didn't know the texture of his audience. I also didn't know the texture of my audience. I was prepared for a hot-headed discourse with intellectuals, with professors and other members of the Ahmadu Bello University. And now I have come face to face with this forest of innocent-looking, sweet-looking, sweet-sounding faces. For whom I really have to change my register. Register means the mode of language. That's what we call a register in linguistics. I have to change my mode of language. I have to simplify my idioms, my expressions, so that we do understand each other. We derive benefits from today's presentation. Now, the ambassadors and also Haji Nufaisa here, they all started with definitions of peace. For your information, definitions are features of formal discussions. Definitions are features of intellectual or academic discussions where people of knowledgeability sit to iron out issues. Definitions should never be taken for granted. That is why both of them at some point included definitions. Definitions help us to achieve intellectual clarity. Intellectual clarity means to understand the subject matter and the district within which it is located, and to be able to anatomize and analyze the variables that are at work within that district. So they both defined peace as not simply the absence of conflict or war. That is what I find really igniting, stimulating about their perspective of peace, which is new to me, as a matter of fact. So I have also learned something. My presence here, I believe there is mutual benefit because I've also learned something. From what I gained from their presentation, peace is not the absence of the sounds of guns. It is not the absence of war and warlords. It is not the absence of warring factions. Peace is a situation where the popular frustrations, where the social anxieties of the individuals have been vanquished, have been expelled by underlying and prompt measures, intervention mechanisms that put the society at rest. That is what peace is. So peace is about justice. Peace is about security, psychological security, where the individual feels at home with himself. People who are not at home with themselves, who have no peace, who have no harmony in themselves, tend to be very aggressive, very combative, very, very bellicose and belligerent, which means very, very warlike. They want war. They want confrontation. Somebody who doesn't have peace within him or her cannot share peace with anybody. So what you have within you is what resonates across the society. It feeds into the psyche, into the mentation, into the thinking pattern of the society. If you have peace in you as an individual, every individual you see is a molecule of peace structure in society. So it is what we have within us that we share with others. That's why psychological peace, as she mentioned, is important. Then peace is also economic peace, security, when there is economic security. When people's life is not defined by depravity, by lack of the basic requirements of life. That is what we mean by life not being defined by depravity. You have everything that is a necessity to comfortable and viable living. Now, if there is economic insecurity, then there will be economic envy. And if you have economic envy, then people will just be waiting for a situation where there is a slight social upheaval, and they can amplify and magnify it into a proportion that will make society either deficient or deformed. That is the danger of economic insecurity when you don't have economic peace. Now, the other one is cultural insecurity. If there is no cultural security where people can really manifest their identities without the fear of being ostracized. Being ostracized means being excluded from the mainstream society, where people are not considered microscopic minority, where human dignity is upheld and even glorified, because we are different from different cultures, from different backgrounds. We don't see culture as a weapon. We see culture as an asset. We showcase our cultures, which is part of human achievement, human variety. You see, that is cultural security. When there is cultural security, there isn't so much suspicion, there isn't so much mistrust. Everybody accepts the other person as a human being. Handshakes are not weaponized. They are really well intended. Then peace will prevail in society. Then we also have political security as part of peace-providing phenomena. When you have a polity, you have leaders, you have followers. Most of us here are followers. The important thing is that we are able to select leaders that provide fair and justiciable representation to the rest of the citizenry. Gandhi said, if you elect idiots to a position of power and influence, you are well represented. What does that mean? It means that you are the idiot in the first place, who elected an idiot to a position of power. So if you don't want thugs in power, you must not elect thugs. When you elect people of responsibility, people of conscience, then democratic and political institutions become trustworthy. You will trust the electoral authorities. You will trust the election results. Where the opposite is the case, elections have less credibility than lottery. Lottery is even more credible than elections. So we need political security in order to have peace. Then down the course of discussion, other factors were mentioned. You see, the absence of violence alone, is no guarantee for peace. It is no guarantee for peace. That is why the Norwegian scholar, Professor Johan Galton, made this statement. He said there are two types of peace. There is negative peace. I read this in German. Probably the good translation would be peace by default. There is peace by default, where a society disprefers conflict. A society loves to be in harmony, to be in symmetry with itself. That is no guarantee for peace, because conflict is part of society. Conflict is even part of the individual. Even within the individual, there is a lot of conflict. And it is this conflict that shapes the individual's view of the world. If there is conflict within you, believe me sincerely, you will export it to the world. So he said, just being at rest, where there is no war, where there is no conflict, is no guarantee for peace. The guarantee for peace is readiness for conflict, because conflict is a resident evil. It is there in man, it is there in small primary groups, it is there in secondary groups. You will always have conflict, whether you like it or not. So when you have institutions, designed institutions that take care of conflict, that take care of any form of social upheaval, when and wherever it might arise, that is when you have the guarantee for peace. It is not your faith that determines that there is peace in your environment. No, it is the measures, the creative measures you have taken to make sure that at the slightest semblance of lack of peace, action can be taken to bring the situation back on the horse. So I believe this is the view to peace we should take, that peace is a scarce commodity that we have to look for. We don't just wait for peace to happen to us. If you want peace, it is not just a matter of closing yourself, retiring in your shells, just bringing closer your group. No, extend your handshake to your enemy. That's how peace is achieved. Lasting, viable peace is achieved in reaching out for the enemy through dialogue. You see, through dialogue, through diplomacy, he will tell you that. That is how peace is achieved, either locally or globally. It is an outreach affair. I see. I'm just warming up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me not abdicate from my responsibility as a teacher. And here we are face to face with the next generation. My generation is on its way out. Now we are going to hand over the banner to you people, And I see a lot of discretion and enthusiasm in your faces. This we want to harness towards making Nigeria a robust society, to get rid of this, our feeble nature, where every small thing can disturb the balance, because the foundation for conflict is laid, and that for peace has been expelled. Now, students, I want you to understand the value of humanity. The knowledge we are giving you, whether it is artistic knowledge, whether it is scientific knowledge, the essence of knowledge is humanity. It is not technology. It is not even science. The essence of knowledge is humanity. How you make the universe a stronger universe. How you make the world a better place to live. From all the education we render, if by some mistake, some misinformation is fed into your ears, you must sieve it. You must filter information. The goal of life, of humanity, is being able to exist in harmony. That is what the goal of life is all about. If you cannot help somebody, don't hurt the person. If you cannot help a person, ignore the person. You don't have to hurt anybody. So use the God-given knowledge on this God-given earth to work towards the psychological, the social, the economic, the political development of humanity. I think with that, you can hand over to the generation that comes after you a better world long, long, long after we are all gone. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Mana. As usual, we thank you for that depth of psychological exposition. Next, we will look at Dr. Rabi Barau to see how can education bring about a peaceful world, be it through the curriculum, be it whatever transformation education brings. Please, we would want to know that.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, I would like to start by appreciating the organizers of this interesting program for inviting me here, and for making me part and parcel of the discussion in this great occasion. To presenters, we really appreciate the content of what you have delivered, which is really, really impactful. The professor, sir, you have also highlighted more and more for us to know the psychological aspect, the cultural aspect, political, and what have you. However, I have to look into the aspect of education. How can education play a role in bringing about peace? Just like the MC spoke, that through the curriculum. When we look at the curriculum, there is need for the curriculum to embrace peace. It is not just about introducing peace education as the curriculum per se. I've heard that there was an introduction of peace education as a curriculum, but that should not stop there. I feel there is need for that peace education curriculum to be injected in other related subjects, such as social studies. There should be some related topics on peace, things that has to do with conflict resolution strategies, peace building, and other related issues should be captured in not just one curriculum, so that it will not be a hit and go affair. Let it be spread out. There is what we call in curriculum, we call it vertical and horizontal. Studies in civic education, and also in other related areas where after a learner learns certain aspect of peace in this subject, he will also encounter it You will also encounter it in another set. With that, it will be internalized. And that will showcase what is expected to be learned by the learners, and it will now be built in them. So they will grow up with it, and when they go to tertiary institutions, of course, it has been built, so they will keep on maintaining that. Apart from that, education can also play a role when we come down to schools. Now, in schools, we have school riots by students. We have other peaceful demonstration and what have you. Now, we know that conflict cannot extinguish conflicts, meaning violence will never be a result of conflict. So with that, there is need to use relevant channels. In schools, we have apart from the guidance and counseling, every time that an assembly is being conducted, let there be such issue of peace, 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 and then the dangers. There is need for the learners to know the different ways of curbing peace, such as the win-win strategies, the win-lose strategies, the lose-win strategies. They should know them, and they should know how to handle them. Because there are some that are having negative impact, like the dialogue, which is seen to be the best. We have the negotiation strategy, we have the avoidance strategy. All this should be injected in the learners so that they will know them, they will know their implications, and then they will know where to apply them where need be. So these are some of the things that the school can do. And then empowerment in terms of information is very, very vital, very important. It's not just about learning how to read and write. No, it's about maintaining peace. Peace will not exist where your hearts are in chaos. You have to be settled, you have to be calm and collected, and then you live with one another. Just like the professor, that in the area of cultural security, that differences should not be seen in any school. You accept unity in diversity. Despite the fact that you come from different
Yes. Good afternoon. I would like to appreciate the organizers of this program. I would also like to welcome the participants. I'm very happy to see your faces here. You remind me of when I was in secondary school, and I wore a similar uniform to yours, brown, and at a later point, green. So this is a very sensitive topic for me, the issue of the effectiveness of UN in regulating what we see happening, conflicts. I would have preferred to give you a broad overview of the legal framework we have before I go to that. All right. I will start with what we have in Nigeria. As children, you have protection under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You have rights to health, education. You have rights to freedom of expression, religion. You have rights to be free from discrimination. And then we have other legislations. We have the Child Rights Act. We have the Child Rights Law, and in some states, Child Protection Law. We have Violence Against Persons Protection Act. We have the Data Protection Act, which seeks to protect your data from being used in negative ways. Then at regional level, we have the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. And then up there, from UN, where we virtually copied most of what we have here, we have the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child. Now, interestingly, we have so many nations that have accepted that, but the United States, for some reason, is reluctant to do that. And we all know that the United States is a key driver in conflict resolution, mitigation, even prevention. Now, going to what's happening across the globe, particularly in Palestine, Israel, well, it's disheartening to see that the UN just has, I'll call it theoretical powers, not powers to implement, enforce, or prevent. We have seen how attacks keep being had on children, hospitals, other communities. Virtually, I don't even want to go too deep into that. But we see recently that some countries have accepted the identity of Palestine as a state. So perhaps that will ensure that Palestine has a bargaining power through, collective powers of those states. We have seen UK accepting Palestine as a state. We've seen France, I think, accepting that. So I would bring us back to the local conflicts we have here. We've seen how conflicts affect people. I don't know whether you are old enough to remember Chibok girls. Have you heard of them? You haven't? Yeah. Chibok girls. Yes, some girls were abducted. Some have been found. I don't think the rest have been found up to date. We see what's happening. We see how children are involved in armed conflicts. Not necessarily with weapons, by the use of weapons as combatants, but by use as spies, errands. You can be asked as children to just tell me what's happening in that compound, not knowing you're an informant. And with social media, this is very easy. You can be contacted, you can be recruited without your knowledge. Now, I want you to know that you're protected by all these legislations I mentioned, by other frameworks we have, the statutory and both the authorities we have in place. You are protected by those. And to bear no stigma as to what happened to you. If for any reason you're called to give information and you know it's wrong, you should be free to report to the necessary authorities. In the first place, be free to say no. Be mindful of your security and your rights. Now, I will go to peace propagation. Other speakers have mentioned cultural, psychological, so many aspects of it. I would want you to learn emotional regulation. Before you communicate, learn emotional regulation between yourselves. That's where it starts. Then, as a community, learn to mediate between yourselves before disputes escalate into conflicts. If you do that, conflicts will not generate themselves and spread into other dimensions. Now, I've mentioned legal framework. I've mentioned your involvement as recruits in armed conflict, how to avoid that. I've mentioned the fact that you are vulnerable as well as special to the nation and to everybody. I also want to implore you to be curious about things, know things, read, listen to social media, listen to accredited sources of information. Now, be proactive. Like I mentioned, reporting things that will infringe on your rights or affect you negatively. Be willing to be guided. That's one thing I see with the younger generation these days. Be willing to be guided and mentored. Finally, I want to, I have a little quiz. How many of you speak Hausa here fluently? Raise your hands if you understand and speak Hausa. You all do. You all do. So I have a saying here, idan hankali ya bata. Who can complete that for me? Okay, from the high table. Okay, we have someone. You have tried. Somebody else? Somebody else? You've tried. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, from the high table. Okay. Masha Allah. So that's it. Dialogue is key. Dialogue is key, both at local level, national level, and even international. Dialogue is key. When tempers are high, you calm yourself, and then you use wisdom. You are very correct. Thank you very much.
One key issue we should get as students is to stay informed. This is very key for us. The last presenter, Barista, I guess, she talked about always identifying accredited sources of information. The doctor here talked about information empowerment. You see? So everything boils out. Somebody else talked about filtering information. How do we do all this? And we are not experts. So I think the only thing I'll be able to say is that we need to understand where we are coming from and where we are going to. There's no doubt the internet has come to stay. Social media is very active in our lives now. Whether we have a phone or not, we are so much attached to that. And most of us get information through the social media. So what efforts do we make to understand that such information is true, is credible, is valid? It's going to play some role in creating the needed peace. Like I told you, when we were growing up, during my time, like she said, I remembered you so well because I also had this green uniform of a thing. And during our time, specifically, I can remember the television being used for campaigns. When I was invited for this program, the first thing that came to my mind was a song I was injected with while in secondary school in the 80s. It was a television campaign, and it was aimed at ensuring peace. I don't know if I can still remember the lines, I can sing it. The song is like, we have a vision of a world of peace, one without wars and pollution free. Let's stop the discrimination, hatred and killings, so the world can live in harmony. It was a television campaign deliberately targeted at we the youths, secondary school. And you know the impact songs play in our lives these days. You don't need to sing very vulgar songs to be entertained. So during my time, these kind of campaigns were crafted, to educate us on the need for peace. What does it mean? So another perspective I got from this song, it's not only about one without wars, and then a pollution-free environment. It's also very key for peace to reign. But now, what do we do? Mostly, we leave the youths to their cell phones, garbage in, garbage out. So one of the key factors we really need to emphasize is for information literacy, media literacy. Let us understand that it is not everything that we come across on social media that is true. It is not everything that we come across on social media that we should forward, if true. And it's not even everything that we have to have access to. We should understand our limits and boundaries. We should make purposeful, deliberate efforts at interpreting what we actually are supposed to make out of information that we receive. As students, we should know that some information, we have to really read in between the lines for us to understand the content. But these days, we use social media basically for entertainment. So I came across, well, it's supposed to be a comedy, sort of. A woman posted, whether true or not, I came across it last week on Facebook, that she had a misunderstanding with the husband. She's a married woman that resides in Kebbi. So she decided to do this yaji. I don't know how to frame it in English, to strike, to leave the husband's house and come back to her parents' house. And the parents' house is in Kaduna. So all the way from Kebbi, she entered public transport on the way, on a mission to come back to Kaduna. She narrated that before they reached Zamfara, that she was no longer angry again, and that she felt there was no need to go home for that yaji. Well, because typically of us as women, she felt going back again is something else. So she had to proceed on the journey. Unfortunately, between Maru and Gusau, they encountered kidnappers. And that she was narrating, and that she narrowly escaped. So she said now she is back to KB, and that Yaji is forbidden in her life, that she will never ever attempt. A lot of people, when I visit the social media, I usually go to the comments section. A lot of people were just taking that for the entertainment aspect. For me, I don't see it as entertaining. There's a key lesson there to learn. Had it been she had even decided to stay to experience this mediation we're talking about, or when you are angry, you should be able to contain yourself. This emphasis that you should always radiate peace. When you have inner peace yourself, you radiate it. So had it been that proactive measure was taken by that woman, she wouldn't even have left the husband's house. She wouldn't even have probably encountered any kidnapper. But this would be a lesson for those of us coming to social media, not just something to read, laugh over it, and move on. So honestly, there must be that deliberate action by all of us to be highly informed about our activities on the social media. We should equally understand where to seek out credible information from. It is not by accident that the media tries to downplay maybe numbers of casualties, especially in crisis situations. The media does that in order to bring down the tension. They don't write statistics, but the more you escalate violence, the more it is met with more violence. So for those of us coming from the lay perspective, we should understand that the social media is not media. It is information given by just anybody, you and I. Unverified. Sometimes just formulated. It can be misinformation, it can be disinformation. These are other things we cannot go into here now. But for us to understand as youths that we have the responsibility to use the media responsibly, it is very key for us. Let us not share what we are not sure about, and let us be very careful in sharing information that is going to escalate negative situations or conditions. This is very key for us as students. Staying informed, how do you stay informed? I am equally very happy that of recent, the federal government has taught about bringing back history as a subject in our schools. When Ambassador started the lectures, I was just wondering, I hope these students know all these things being said. You know, the issue of the Boko Haram crisis starting from 2002. How many of us know about that? How many of us have cared to understand really what is even the genesis of Boko Haram? How did it start? When we say ISWAP, what do we mean? Well, when we hear banditry, when they say terrorist, what does it mean? There is another one now, Lakurawa. So, maybe some of us are just hearing it for the first time. So, without history, we will not be able to understand our antecedents. Okay? So we need to understand where we are coming from, where we are, and then where we are also going. Madam Nufaisa talked about poverty and unemployment among youths as drivers to, to conflicts, to wars. Now, when we say poverty, what do we mean? When we say unemployment, are we talking about white-collar jobs? Only going to school now because we want to finish school and get employed in an office and go and work? We should rethink, our lives, ourselves. And this is where the internet, the social media can be very valuable for us. Instead of us going there now to waste our time, in some of our schools we have access to maybe free internet, or when we visit places like this place. I don't know how those of you that are here found yourselves here, but I'm sure some screening took place before you were selected to come and be here to attend this function. So this is already a platform for you to understand that you are already given chances to become gainfully employed by the little things you hear from us today here, or from the writings you see on the wall. From the beginning, from the entrance of this hall to this place, there are a lot of writings, and they are all communicative ideas. What is it saying to you? Is it just for you to read it and just brush it off, for instance? Or are you to take meaning out of it and do something reasonable with it? So this is what we're talking about when we talk about informed decisions. Every information you receive should be something that you scrutinize, you take the good sides of it, and discard the one that is not bad. At this level, I think this is just what I should be able to say as the media. The conventional media is there, which we hardly go to. How many of us switch on the television these days? We don't. How many of you even know that there is news on TV? Arewa 24 ko? Ta kuce, ta mace, ta kowa ce ko? So on that Arewa 24, what and what do you identify? I'm an ardent watcher of, I watch Area 24 all the time. But what do you pick up from Area 24? So you need to be well informed about your decisions in life, about what you have set out to be, about every information that you come across. The one you understand, make good use of it. The one you don't understand, you have your teachers, you have your parents at home, okay? And I am sure if you make deliberate efforts like this, it will help a great way in creating that enabling, peaceful environment that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Adama. From the presentations of the members of the high table, you could see how the choice is made to navigate the different sections of our lives as students, and how we intend that you live that life nurturing peace. From what we have heard so far, is there any question? Is there any contribution that you want to make? Do you have questions? First, as students, before other categories of those present are given the opportunity to ask or comment. We will first take from the students. Feel free. This is a classroom. These are parents and teachers as well. Though they don't teach you, but by their learning, they are teachers. They are mothers. Even not in classroom, they are teaching. So feel free to ask, what is it that you don't know? What is it that has been said that you are not clear about?
My name is Eba Mohammed. I'm from Al-Amin Islamic International School. When I was sitting, I saw the word symposium. So I was thinking the meaning of the word symposium. Thank you.
Good. Yes. No question is useless. Yes. Any other question from the students? Yes.
Alamin Abubakar from Demonstration Secondary School. I have a question. Resort to dialogue, and the other party does not give in. What does one resort to? Like if he resorts to dialogue and the other party does not like give dialogue, what does one?
My name is Isaba Maina, and my question is directed to Professor Bello Al-Hassan. During your talk, you talked about the two types of peace, default peace and negative peace. Sir, could you please highlight more on negative peace? Thank you.
This is your day. I want to exhaust students before taking other categories. Yes.
So, ni zan iya yin magana ne akan harshen Hausa. Yau, akan yi magana ne akan masu ba mu tsaro. To, masu ba mu tsaro akwai wani lokaci da zai kawo da cewa idan an kawo mana hari wajen ƙauyukanmu, idan an kira masu ba mu tsaro, misali kamar a ce 'yan sanda, sojoji, idan an kira su ba sa zuwa a kan lokaci sai bayan abu. Mene dalilin da yasa ba sa zuwa kan lokaci?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Hassan Shuaibu by name, and I have two questions. But before that, I would like to appreciate our presenters and the discussants for their insightful contributions, which has broadened our understanding of peace and war, especially from different perspectives, from international, domestic, and even educational perspective. My first question is, how do the international conflicts, such as the Ukraine-Russia conflict, the Israel-Palestine conflict, affect Nigerian security and economy, as either directly or indirectly? That is the first question. How does the conflict affect Nigerian security and economy? Then the second question, how do you see youths in building a sustainable peace in Nigeria, given that they are both the drivers of conflict and also resolution? I don't know whether you have.
My name is Ishaku Yarusin. My own question is, I'm disturbed about this issue of proliferation of arms and ammunition. Dr. Nafisatu Garba Ahmed said that about 1 billion arms are in circulation globally, and mostly in Africa. So I am very sure that Nigeria, there are a lot of arms circulating in Nigeria. And what is the federal government of Nigeria doing about this proliferation of arms and importation of arms into our country? If we're going to give our children a very good future, I'm very sure each and every one of us cherish the future of our children. And if these arms are in this country, there's no way we're going to combat kidnapping and banditry. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Comrade Bishir Dauda Sabur Ongwa Katsina. I am an activist based in Katsina State. Currently, I serve as secretary of a non-profit organization called Muryar Talaka Awareness Initiative. Also, I'm the executive director of CPAC-I, another non-profit organization. First and foremost, I must commend Yusufu Bala Usman Institute for organizing this very important conversation, especially for inviting our young and vibrant student to come and participate in this very important program, because the only way we can uphold the legacy of late Dr. Yusufu Bala Usman is by teaching history. And one of the best ways is to bring our students and let them know about the history of our country. I want to remind us that today, 24th September 2025, exactly marks 20 years since the death of our mentor, Dr. Yusufu Bala Usman. And the fact that this very important institute is named after him shows that he was not an ordinary person, he was an extraordinary person. And that is why a big center like him is named after him. And our students should understand that they can be like, they can achieve anything in life, not necessarily by reading other courses, but also even by reading history. They can be like Dr. Yusufu Bala Usman, because we are remembering him today, and he was known as historian, even though we know he read So my observation has to do with the issue of imperialism, the role of imperialism in exacerbating conflict and war across the globe. We all know through the writings of Dr. Yusufu Bala Usman, he exposed that kind of role imperialism plays in causing wars, conflict across the globe. He taught us to always look beyond the surface, to remove the disguises and the masks. Most of the wars and conflicts that are happening today are all about the control of resources. Take, for example, the Israel and Palestine war. It is about taking over the Palestinian land. So also the Russia-Ukraine war is about disposition of land. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah told us that imperialism has no taste. It can come from China or from Russia or from Arab countries. So I wish Ambassador Sani will shed light on the role of imperialism, not only in respect of Middle East, but also in Africa. Take, for example, the conflict in Democratic Republic of Congo, which is partly about resources. So also in the Central African Republic, we know the kind of role Wagner has been playing, and it has to do with resources. So also in Sudan and other wars and conflict across Africa, it's all about the issue of control of resources or taking over of land. So I hope you will shed more light on the role of imperialism, neocolonialism, in respect of exacerbating wars and conflict. Thank you very much.
International law and human rights for everyone? If yes, why some holier than 12 countries, as you
Good afternoon, everyone. The presenters, the Yusufu Bala Usman Institute, they have done a very good job to us by organizing this symposium. My question goes like this. From the presentation, we have seen this a path to Nigerian peace is multifaceted and it's multidimensional based on the presentation. From 2023, with this current administration, we have seen there's increase in banditry, rural insecurity, more especially on the border areas around Niger, Chad, Cameroon borders. So what my question is that, what is the response of our government, especially on the diplomatic aspect, Ambassador Sir, especially on the diplomatic aspect, more especially after the Niger coup of 2023, what was the response of Nigeria and ECOWAS? And can we say the response of Nigeria and ECOWAS contributes towards insecurity, more especially in the border communities along Nigeria and Niger? Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. For far too long, humanity has danced on the edge of flames, where silence of peace is drowned by conflict, and hopes of nations crumble beneath the weight of conflict. Today we gather to discuss such issues and the rest. Well, I actually wanted to have a particular thing to talk about, but I think for want of time, I might not be able to delve much into that. Mine is actually more of a contribution to our discuss. In fact, I actually, what I wanted to talk about, igniting peace in a world where I'm speaking as a student, a specialist in peace and conflict management. I'm Ali Mustafa from the Department of Political Science and International Studies. I specialize in peace and conflict management. And then from the classes of peace studies that I had with one of our professor of peace studies and in regional integration, in person of Professor Kayode Omajua, it makes us believe that peace, just like one of our presenters talked about, is not the absence of conflict, but it is a presence of dignity, it's a presence of justice, and it's a presence of human rights. So, having said that, we also look at the conflict, it revolves around, it's characterized or revolves around some factors, such as structural, such as relational, such value-based costs, whereby the relational, it actually emerged out of the ineffective communication that we had as an individual or as a group. Also we have the value base, which also comes out as a result of our belief, which I can't remember who talked about that. It's not about divergent or cultural practices, that we have different view of those. At the end of the day, you have perceived threats or wrong notion about individuals' culture. This structural also lead to this, let's say, the competition in resources, in power sharing and the rest. This imbalance in those areas actually have emanated and caused crisis. So I'm challenging us as a youth. We feel this is the right time to take action. Just like they said, the theme of this year says, act now. And I believe we will all act now. Thank you very much.
My name is Ahmed. My question goes to Dr. Rabi Varov. In a situation where you have, in a school setting, where you have this kind of group of students, like group of Malians and Sarasuka, So the school, which school is only one in the society. So how can you promote peace within that group, which they normally have clashes within the school surrounding? So how can you promote peace within those groups, which they would normally bring problem to the school and the society? Thank you.
Good afternoon, my responsible teachers. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sophia Muhammad. I am a Muslim. I'm indigenous of Kaduna State. I'm citizen of Nigeria, a daughter of Africa. I am from Gapman Girls Secondary School, father. So, my question is, which process to reduce kidnappers? Thank you very much.
So we have an array of questions, but more to. Okay, we have virtual question. Let's take the virtual question before we. It seems the ambassador is the focus of most of the questions. The question from the online viewer is, what advice will they give to students to help them remain focused in their studies? And how can they also inspire their peers at home who are not in school to value education, given that lack of education often makes young people more vulnerable to recruitment into gangs? The second question is, how can individuals' identity fake news, especially in an era where misinformation spreads so quickly? Ambassador, you have so many questions to attend to.
Yeah, thank you very much, the MC. Honestly, there are some of the questions I have not heard clearly. So maybe in the process of answering them, if I fail to answer any question which I have not listened, then you can remind me, or the person who asked the question can remind me. The first one, I think, is symposium. Somebody asked about what symposium is. And to be sure, as soon as he did that, I checked the Oxford Dictionary. And it says symposium is a conference or a meeting to discuss a particular subject. Symposium is a conference or a meeting aimed at discussing a particular subject. Like in this case, you know, it is a symposium because we are discussing a particular subject, you know, something to do with war and peace and security. So, but the person can further check in either Google or one of the dictionaries. And the second one, I think somebody asked about why the security agents don't really respond to calls on time when bandits are attacking a particular place. Well, I'm not a security agent, I'm a diplomat. But you see, I think it has something to do with the chain of command, you know, of either the military or the police. I was made to understand that the military, you know, cannot attack or respond to attacks, you know, from bandits if they don't clear from their commanders. I think there was even a time somebody was given a query for attacking a bandit without clearing from his command. You know, in the army there is this command and control, and that is taken very, very seriously. But recently, you know, following a visit to Mr. President, I think by the Kaduna State Governor, that has now been waived. They don't wait for permission from the high command, the military high command, before you can attack or address a call, from a community that is being attacked, that you are allowed to go and attack and respond to it immediately without permission. So I think it's a very good question, but the latest development is that has been waived, that the soldiers or the security agents are allowed to attack or respond to calls from communities that are attacked by bandits immediately. Again, somebody asked about the impact of the Ukraine war on Nigeria. Ukraine is a very important country. It was part of Russia before part of Soviet Union before the empire was Balkanized or de-idealized, or how you want to call it. And then Ukraine was carved out of that Russia. It exports a lot of grains. Ukraine exports a lot of grains to a number of countries around the world, including Nigeria. So that war will make it very, very difficult, for them to export their grains, to other countries. And when those started, I remember there are some countries that find it very difficult to even build up their strategic reserves because they could not get the exports from Ukraine. So that is one aspect of it. But then another aspect is, there are a number of Nigerian students in Ukraine, and most of them were trapped in the war. They didn't know how to leave the country. The Nigerian embassy there had to intervene, to rescue some of them. I think relocate them to another country. Some of them were able to come back home. You see, Nigerians are everywhere. If you remember, even in Sudan, the Sudan crisis also had so many Nigerians trapped in that country. So there are other ways, that, like I said, even globalization. Globalization today has made it in such a way that something even that is happening in Zaria can have direct impact, on other countries of the world. So the world is now a smaller place. Refugees, IDPs in Ukraine, will go to other countries, and that one will directly or indirectly affect other countries, and until it reaches our country, Nigeria. Then somebody also talked about arms circulation of small arms and light weapons in Nigeria. In fact, I'm telling you, it is not only small arms that is now in circulation. There are very, very heavy weapons in the hands of non-state actors. That is like this Boko Haram, Ansaru and the Lakrawa and others. They are in possession of not only light weapons. Light weapons is like these small arms that you can just put here, and then bring it out. And, but they have sophisticated heavy weapons, artillery, even drones. They can bring down an aircraft. They have air to surface to air missiles. So it's not only light arms, light weapons, but there are also heavy weapons in the possession. And one way of curbing this is, you see, if you look at it, if you remember, before the Libyan civil war, we didn't have much of problem of insecurity in Nigeria. It was following the Libyan civil war, when the country became ungovernable, so many factions here and there. And then the Libyan armory was looted. The Libyan armory was very, very large, very rich, very heavy, with different types of weapons, very heavy weapons. And then it was looted, and you now have people on the street having dangerous, very heavy weapons, on the street. And you immediately had now citizens who collected, and then exporting them to other countries, including Nigeria, and especially Nigeria. most of the weapons used by Boko Haram and other insurgents in Nigeria were armory, and then some security that because of the porous borders, and porous borders, it was better to hold this weapons. So one way of telling to make sure that our strictly, manned by the agents that are at the border. But even it's difficult, in the sense that, you cannot separate somebody from Niger Republic and Nigeria. They look at themselves, at the top, the government level, they say, okay, Niger Republic or Nigerian, federal government of Nigeria. But at their own level, there is nothing like Niger Republic. There is nothing like federal government of Nigeria. They are all either Hausa or Muslims or whatever, and they see themselves as one. I remember I served in our embassy in Saudi Arabia so many years back as a consular officer issuing passports and visas and that. And a group of some people from Niger, they came to the embassy to ask for passports, that we should give them passports. And they said, we said, no, you are from Niger. They say, yes, it is you that differentiate. We don't differentiate between Niger. Yeah. And then, honestly, these local communities, they don't differentiate between Niger and Nigeria. And those of us, for instance, that work in the embassy, the only way you can even differentiate is the accent. Because some of them speak French, but the Nigerian side speak English. So when you want to find out, you ask somebody to speak English. When you hear him speak English, even with an accent, a French accent, or different from what we speak here, then you know that he's from Niger. But it's very difficult now to man these borders. I think there should be a kind of understanding between the two governments, Nigeria and Niger, on how to stop movement of these weapons. And before this Niger coup, Niger was doing everything possible, to stop bandits from coming into Nigeria. They were like, they formed like a kind of fence. Some of these people coming from Libya, from Mauritania, from Mali, when they come to Niger, the Niger authorities, will arrest them or take them back, but will not allow them to move into Niger and then to Nigeria. But now with this problem, I think we need to sit down again with them to talk. Somebody talked about imperialism, how the imperialists control us here. In 1978, 77 actually, I was in College of Arts and Science here in Zaria, and I read history. I remember one of my classmates is there sitting at the back, and I think he will bear me witness. I remember the definition of imperialism given to us by one of our lecturers. We call him Comrade Oni. He said, imperialism is the rule or control, political or economic, of one state or nation over other similar groups, or the disposition, tendency, urge, or striving to establish such a rule or control. I memorized this in 1978, 77 actually, and I still remember. So, but you see, there are so many ways imperialism controls our resources, our economy, our leaders, and all that. One of which is, through the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, the IMF. If you remember some of the structural adjustment programs, policies of the Babangida administration, and other similar policies. These were some of our leaders. I don't know, either are blackmailed or they sold out, to these Bretton Woods institutions and allow them to dictate what they should do in their countries. And in most cases, if you refuse, something unpleasant may happen to you. We know how so many African leaders, were either killed in a coup, as in the case of Murtala Mohammed, the up and doing former head of state in Nigeria, how he was killed. And later, the killers were associated with some foreign powers. It was like they were recruited by some foreign powers. We know how so many African leaders, like Lumumba in Congo, people like Augustina Neto, Amilcar Cabral, Madame remind me most of these names, Steve Biko, Nelson Mandela, how, you see, they were either removed from office or killed or their regime terminated because they refused to agree to imperialism. And imperialism controls the economy. So if you agree with them, of course, then you are handing over, you are surrendering the economy of your country to these imperialists. And that is why most African countries now have very serious economic issues, economic problems that are culminated, as it were, into the serious security problems that we're having today in the country. I don't know, maybe if the questionnaire has more this, we can do that bilaterally after this meeting, because I'm also interested in the topic, and I'm also a bushman from Kazana too, like you. Nigerian government response to the three countries, that left ECOWAS. So somebody asked something like that. Yeah. Well, you see, the immediate response of Nigerian government was that they should go and wage war on Niger, and they supported Nigeria, the federal government, during the Biafran Civil War. In fact, some of our military planes, were parked in Niger Republic. They allow our soldiers to use their soil, to organize, and then fly from Niger to come and attack the Biafrans and go back, so that our planes will not be destroyed by the Biafrans here. And then they did that despite the fact that France, their imperial power, was supporting the Biafrans. So I think it was not a very good policy at the time, to just attack a sister country who helped us in our hour of needs. When everybody deserted us, Niger refused. They helped us. They did everything. In fact, it was like their war. This is what is called like proxy war, because they also regarded that war as their war. So now here is somebody, a leader of removed from government, and the Nigerian government is saying that they should go and attack the government and restore, reinstall the man. I think it was done at the spur of the moment, but then later, I think that policy was changed. Even their lights that was caught, it was reconnected, because it was also not a very good policy. Nigeria gives Niger lights because there was an understanding agreement that the Niger government should not create a dam over River Niger. If they create a dam over River Niger, Nigeria will not be able to have water, to run our Shiroro and other hydro yeah. So immediately after the coup, we switched up the electricity. We stopped giving them. It was also not a very good policy, but then later it was restored. So many children died as a result of that policy in Niger because they were in the hospital, and then there was no lights, so they had to be removed and all that. So many of them died. So
it was done at the spur of the moment, but later the Nigerian government realized that Niger is a dependable ally, and that the dispute between the two countries should be resolved diplomatically. And I think there are still pursuing the diplomatic angle, even to bring them back into ECOWAS. So I don't know if there's something I missed out.
Okay, yes. I think Ambassador has laid the foundation. Yes, but I also want to add that there's an agency that was created in 2021, the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons, under the Office of the National Security Advisor. So that office or agency is saddled with the responsibility of controlling, preventing arms, and even regulating the arms, right? It has policy coordination functions. It has a functioning database management system where you could go and where they regulate and provide credible data on all these circulation of small arms and light weapons, and also coordination between the National Security Advisor's Office and other security agencies. Now the question is, how efficient is that agency and what have been the success outputs? I think that is where the question should lie. There are also other bilateral agreements between Nigeria and other countries under organizations such as ECOWAS Protocol on the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons. We have all those. We have under the AU. We even have agreements between the Lake Chad Basin countries, to see how they can man their border control measures, security coordination, intelligence sharing. These are all efforts by the national government to see how they can control these arms. But I think what should be emphasized is the political commitment, because it's one thing to put in the structures and another thing to know how to, the commitment should be there. And also, legislation is another thing. We need to legitimize, or we need to place legislation policies that really are saddled with the responsibilities of checkmating these excesses. So I think that's just the only question I want to add on. Thank you.
What?
Negative peace.
He asked about default peace and native peace.
Well, you made mention. Yes, I did make mention. But may I seek the indulgence of everybody around to do some excursus. Excursus means to depart from what my area of operation should be and take something up. If you don't mind, sometimes it tickles our sensibility rather, when language issues are raised. I would just want to add a few explanations on the meaning of symposium. As a matter of fact, in spite of the U there, symposium, it should be pronounced symposium, yem, not yum. That is the correct pronunciation. But I believe Nigerian pronunciation is symposium. Yes. Good. That is the first clarification. The second clarification is that the word came from Greek through Latin to French into the English language. That's how words work. That's why you find a word like Firdaus, which is paradise, derived from paradise in the Quran. Words go around. That's how you find shrabi, meaning syrup, meaning some medicament you take to cure some ailment. It is from shrab, to drink in the Arabic language. So words go around, they leave their place of provenance, meaning place of originality, to other places. So symposium is a composite word, a word made of two meaning particles. The first particle is sim, S-Y-M, sim, which means together. And posium means drinking. Now, it comes from the folkloric tradition where people sit in cafes and pubs, in beer parlors, to drink and discuss matters of importance, of social and political and moral importance. That's the origin of the word. Now it means normally to have an intellectual conversation. Now, the particle sim is the same you find in symphony. Symphony, this musical exploit where about 40 people come together, play music, and you hear it as if it is just one person playing the music. Symphony. And then it is the same word in syndicate, even though there is no M this time. But being students of oral English, you know that the labials, sounds produced around the lips with the two lips, can influence the nature of any sound that comes before them. So when you have syndicate, it is because the lips are not involved. But when you have sim, it is because the lips are involved in producing p, and in symbol, you see symbol, it should be symbol, but because a sound is there which is produced with the lips, it becomes symbol. You know, that is called assimilation, which is a sound process to ease pronunciation. That is it. Now let me go back to my own piece of task. I'm sure he didn't give that portion to me to answer, even though he knows it is my commerce. Language is my commerce. He should have given that piece to me, but I'm sure he was afraid that I might go on speaking beyond the bounds of good taste, which I wouldn't do, really, because I know we all have our engagements, our personal interests to pursue after this meeting. Now let's go to the issue of, she said, the difference between default peace. No, Galtung called it negative peace and positive peace. I really do not, personally, it is my humble opinion, that I don't believe there is any manner of peace that is negative. I don't believe. With that, I think I can quarrel with him over that nomenclature. There is no manner of peace that is negative. So let me apply fresher idioms and say it is weak peace and strong peace. Now, what is weak peace? Weak peace is to just exist on the assumption that every society disprefers conflict. Every society favors peace. And peace, because it is favored by society, will naturally take care of itself. It will just exist. So peace is this brooding, hovering existence, which you can find everywhere, which is a wrong assumption. It is a weak view of peace, thinking that peace is always there and it will take care of itself. That is weak peace. Now, strong peace, the strong view of peace is that conflict is always there shoulder to shoulder with peace. They coexist. Even if conflict is latent. Latent means it is not clear, you cannot see it, but it's still there like a time bomb waiting for just a little push to erupt. So that society, as you see, it may look robust, may look strong, but society is as feeble as a bubble. You know chewing gum, you know that bubble? Society is so feeble. One word out of place can trigger, can ignite societal upheaval. So because of that, the strong view of peace says we must put mechanisms in place that will make sure that conflict does not erupt. And if it does, we do have our own approaches in place to make sure that it is defeated. That is what they call positive peace. Positive peace is to live in anticipation and in preparedness, in utter readiness that conflict may erupt anytime, and we have the intervention mechanisms ready to make sure that we neutralize it. The other way we can look at it is to use another metaphor. Weak peace believes that peace is an organism. When an entity is an organism, like the human being, like the animal, it means that entity is automated. It can put itself to sleep. It can wake itself up. It can wash itself. It can take care of itself, maintain itself. That is a weak view of peace. The strong view is not to see peace as an organism, but to see it as a mechanism, like a generator. You have to start a generator. You have to put it off when its functions are accomplished. You have to maintain it, which is the most important aspect, if you want to deploy its services for the next time. This view of peace, I believe, means proactive peace, where you envisage problems before they occur and you are in a state of readiness. That not all peace is really, what is the word in the English language? I have kept the German language. What is the opposite of malignant in English? Benign. Yeah? That there is this, that conflict is benign. We must live with it, but it does not matter. Peace will always take care of it. Peace will overwhelm conflict. The other aspect is to look at conflict as malignant, not to rely on the benignity of conflict, to believe that it is malignant, it is harmful to society. It can cause sorrow. It can cause some confusion and disillusionment. So we have our mechanisms ready to take care of the situation, and that is the strong form of peace. So you can throw out the nomenclature negative and positive, and I think it is better for our understanding to work with weak and strong peace. Thank you for that question. No, it is another lady from the second row that asked the question. The mic. Yes.
I want to respond to yes. A student asked, what if you invited for a dialogue and the other party is not willing to do that, which is a good question. So in response to that, the first thing is, even if the other party is willing to create violence, don't react. Don't respond to his way of violence. Keep calm. Then report the matter. If it is within the school, report the matter either to your teacher, from your senior in the class, if any, prefects, then to the teacher, then to the school head, or any matured adult. Report the matter to such an individual that will help in putting the two of you together to settle the matter. All right? Yeah. Then the other question about where a school is filled up with thugs, right? Thugs.
that are causing havoc to the settlement of the progress of the school? Well, we do have schools around like that, but what I think should happen is there is need to strengthen leadership and rules. School rules and regulation, it should be strengthened. Reason being that there might be a tendency that the leader or the school does not have a rule. So that is why every student will do anything and anyhow. So such rules and regulations should be strengthened, and then the leadership as well as the teachers, administrators should lead by example. That will now help in making other learners to copy from them, to serve as role model. Another aspect of it is there is need to create other extracurricular activities. It is not just a matter of academics, academics, academics. Sometimes some of these learners may not be interested in academics all through. So where such extracurricular activities are introduced, such as a peace club, let it be introduced, and then dialogue will now be given a chance to take place, whether grievances will be expressed, this will help matters. Then introduction of ICT, crafts, other entrepreneurship trainings, all this will take care of other aspects that will keep them, that will make them relevant and will make them engaged. Then another aspect of it is involvement or collaboration. There is need to collaborate with the parents. The school should invite the parents. There is need to collaborate with community leaders, to collaborate with local NGOs to help in ensuring that peace is sustained in the school. There is also need to collaborate with other agencies in terms of security. I mean the government, that is maybe police related. We have what is called Edu Marshal in schools in Kaduna State. So those marshal can also help in ensuring peace within the school. There is need to probably involve legal services where need be. So all these are ways to handle such areas, but make sure that they are engaged, because sometimes it's idleness that is making them behave in that way. But when they are fully engaged with one activity or the other, definitely they may likely be positive. Again, the guidance and counseling unit should work very, very tirelessly. Why? Because they are very, very important when it comes to sustaining peace in the school environment. You know, peace talk, empowerment of information, then probably empowerment in relation to sponsorship. There are some that are engaged in such activities because they don't have school fees to pay. They were sent home, so because of that, they feel the school should now just close up. Because if they could not be in school, let the school be closed. So such kind of empowerment should also be given. Pay their school fees if that is their concern. Look at what is their problem. Then from there, dialogue, negotiation, and good respect and what have you will take care of the rest. Thank you so much.
Someone asked about if we have international law and human rights, why do some countries act mightier than others? And the answer is simple. Economic power, political power, sovereignty of the states. Some states do not want to accept conventions or agreements that will be detrimental to their own state. Enforcement mechanisms are weak. I'll give you an instance, the ECOWAS Court of Justice. Before you prosecute any matter there, it takes a very long time. We don't even want to go to International Court of Justice and International Criminal Court. So, but the basic answer is economic and political power. That's why it's difficult to see other countries, to see some powerful countries conform to what's been agreed on.
issue of misinformation, go? Yes, please. It was an online. Mm. Oh, okay. Mm. Yeah, first, the issue of fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. You know, they are concepts that are independent of one another. And well, for us, at this our very, minute level, is just to understand that misinformation is information you give out. You didn't intend that you want to cause any harm with it, but then it is not correct. That is what we refer to misinformation. Then there's the issue of disinformation. Disinformation is deliberately carved out, and it is being sent out to create some kind of mischief. So what usually affects us is the issue of misinformation. And I don't know, the world has moved so fast now that everybody wants to be the first to say it, to share. So the first step for you to take to curtail, harboring misinformation is not to share what you are not sure of. You shouldn't always be in a haste to share. We are fond of doing it. And once you share, nobody gives you any accolades or gives you any prize for being the first to share, but instinctively, we always want to share first. So we need to work on ourselves to stop doing that. And I think one of the basic ways we can do it is to have ourselves gainfully employed, so to say, have something very tangible to do. Not that you're always waiting to share as received. It affects us all, whether the young or the old. We always do it. I saw it on social media, so you saw it, must you share it? Even if something is correct, but if it is not pleasant, I think you should have this decorum to restrain yourself from harboring, something that will cause discomfort to someone or the society at large. I think this is just the best step. And then looking out for information, credible information. We should know that there are conventional sources where you get information from, where you get valid news. Always resort to conventional media organizations first. If you receive something you are not sure of, check up one or two media organizations. If you don't see it, then be sure that that is not correct. Thank you.
So, so we thank the presenters and the students for attending this year's Peace Day. We hope that by next year, you are going to come back as peace clubs of your various schools, so that we will continue to congregate and discuss how to nurture and manage the fragile peace that exists globally. This gathering is an enlightenment for both you young students and we, the older ones. This is an inoculation for you. This is a vaccination. When we find any of you participating in any form of conflict, then this vaccination has not worked on he or her. So we hope that all of you here present today are vaccinated, and it is part of your responsibility to vaccinate other members of your school. Pass the message. That is the purpose of this gathering. You represent your various schools, your various communities. So the takeout for today's symposium is that you understand that peace is nurtured. You take care of it. It doesn't exist on its own. The Gaia concept is a weak one, if I may say. You nurture it. So you take the message. Each one of you, you pass the message on. We will keep on the contact so that we will have the Zaria Peace Club, which constitute all of you here. So we keep in touch, and we'll continue to discuss peace. We will continue to live in peace, and then we'll continue to breed a larger global society that is peace-driven. Thank you. There is an attendance pass around. You sign before we close for the day. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your patience to listen. Thank you. there will be a group photograph after taking your break. We're going to have a group photograph outside.